Greetings, lords and ladies of Westeros. We are here for one final time. At least for the season. That's right, folks. It is time to finally discuss the finale of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Season 1. We have been through quite the journey, so, we're going to kind of talk about, as per usual, recap bits of the episode and highlight some of our favorite parts of it, without, going into too deep of detail and too many, kind of lore dumps. Because, if we did that, these videos would be, 40 minutes long. And we value your time as much as you do, so, we're gonna keep this as tight as possible. And, maybe talk a little bit of predictions, without, spoiling it for show-only people. But yeah. So, it's customary spoiler alert, but let's get started. So, Tony, what do you wanna start off with? I think maybe we start with because this whole episode really focuses on Dunk's guilt in the aftermath of the trial by 7 from the penultimate episode.
Yeah, and I think that because it all came down to Dunk asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
Was me having all the damage done to me by having a busted up foot, concussed to high heaven, and not being able to see out of one of my eyes for a while,
worth the life of a prince that, by all accounts, was well beloved by the realm, could have turned things around, seemed like an all-around good man. Was my life really worth it? Why did the gods favor me over Prince Baelor? That was the big question kind of he echoed all throughout.
Yeah, and he got various different perspectives indirectly, I think, but it really helped further answer his question.
Mm-hmm. And I think,
now, granted, most of the answers that he got from that question came from people that are still grieving, and so they make decisions not so much logically, but still out of a grief that's very recent, which is a very fair thing to say.
Yeah, more emotionally driven. And also he got some anti-Targ perspectives as well, who aren't really, don't really hold the royal family in the highest of regard. So, obviously they're just gonna say, oh, who the fuck cares about a prince? You survived, you're what matters. And, they were also his friends, so of course they care more about him than they care about some random, higher lord.
Yeah. I mean, we love Lionel, but man was really trying to put perspective, but he put it in the most Lionel way possible, right? Yeah,
it was very, very blunt, very crude, but, you expect that from Lionel. That's the kind of person he is. So, totally get it.
Yeah, and Raymond's perspective is that I got to see my friend. I also got to beat up my cousin, so...
And I got to prove myself, So what? I got kicked out of the nice fancy house, but I get to start my own way, make my own path, which Dunk does for a lot of people. And I think the inspiration he caused is definitely has a huge ripple effect.
Yeah, and then we have the conversations with the various Targ princes, Baelor's son, who is grieving the death of his father, who basically tells Dunk, hey, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Seeing your face makes me upset, and I don't want to deal with you.
Yep.
I know you're trying to do the honorable thing and reach out to me, but I don't need that from you right now.
He's I respect it, but at the same time, fuck off. This is not the time.
Yep. And then you have Maekar, because most of the conversation was between, at separate occasions, but it was mostly conversations with Maekar that really exemplify what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and Maekar himself is dealing with his own, brand of guilt because he dealt the death blow. And so
to his brother.
And so he feels responsible as well.
which was also in the novella too. And but one of the things that, because it was without an, well, okay, so the novella had it in the sense that it was like the melee itself was random. Like anyone could have smacked Baelor in the back of the head with a mace.
Yeah.
But since Maekar is known to use a mace in combat, it
was implied to be him. But the show made it directly clear that it was Maekar. Yeah.
But since they were fighting a trial by 7, which is a rite ordained by the gods.
Yeah, he's not shamed or claimed as a kinslayer because, you know, everybody's on equal footing and on opposite sides. So it's that weird gray area. Because, like, obviously the realm is going to whisper and call him a kinslayer, but, like, technically he's still within the right by law.
Yeah. But also Maekar doesn't, given his personality and kind of his own demeanor with most of the realm, because Dunk is right when he said that a lot of the princes don't really get the outside realm. They don't understand the perspective.
And I mean, and that's the thing that Dunk was really trying to convey to Maekar. He's like, all right, so if you want Egg to squire under me, I can't have him just be training in Summerhall where he's surrounded by his family, his servants, castles that'll treat him like a prince. If he's treated like a hedge knight, he'll understand the world as a whole and understand the needs of the realm. And if he's going to be a prince, which will one day be a king, you know, knowing the realm as a whole will help him and his people. Which it does, because, you know, for the most part, until Egg's tragic end, Egg is a very well-respected king.
Yep.
And up to that point, the Targaryen dynasty was on a pretty big upswing. You know, this is before Aerys went crazy. This is when Aerys was still, you know, the supposed fulfillment of the prophecy with, like, his grandson, like, Egg's grandson, leading into a new era of prosperity for the Targaryens. So, like, it's a whole thing. It is successful at the end of the day. You know, there's a bit of an asterisk to it because we still don't know how it ends, but it seems like, you know, Egg at the end of the day was a great king.
Yeah, and with the Summerhall thing that Maekar mentioned in his initial offer, he also said for Dunk to continue training too, because Sir Arlen did his best, but there's still much for Dunk to know. But at least my purview of it, because I don't know if you kind of clocked it, Jay, but Maekar was like, you have, look, it's like you mentioned.
It's exactly what I said. He has raw talent, but it's like his skills are unpolished. Like he just needs a little bit to finish it off. Which I actually agree with. I think Dunk made the right call with, like, the no Summerhall thing, but I think he should have maybe, like, spent, like, a year at Summerhall to finish his training and then did the head knight thing. I would have maybe, like, kind of spun for that compromise. But, like, Dunk is also stubborn, and let's be real, we've said it multiple times, he's not the sharpest blade in the armory, so...
Yeah. I mean, Dunk does his best because, given his, like, being raised in Flea Bottom for most of his life, and the only, like, friend that he ever had was definitely smarter than him. Let's keep spade. She wanted to get out as quickly as possible. And I
mean, his master in Sir Arlen himself, like, even though he was formerly a knight, like, let's be real, with how he fought, he was definitely, like, much more raw and closer to, like, a kind of a, like, he was more Dothraki than Westerosi. Like, he fought savagely. Like, it's definitely unrefined. like in terms of like
Yeah.
combat and such.
And not to say that the Dothraki are not gifted warriors in their own right. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
It's like a style perspective
Yeah.
rather than like how combat is done.
And from an optic perspective, like, you know, Egg is still a prince, so, you know, he should be, like, from an optic perspective, like, have a knight, squiring under a knight who is more polished and, like, you know, has that skill. But, I mean, we know that Duncan has the capability because he does eventually, you know, spoiler alert, but I'm not really, because, I mean, again, if you know the history, you know the history. He does eventually rise to the position of Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, the highest position a knight could rise to. So, like, he's clearly got what it takes. We just, you know, got to be along for the ride.
And before reaching the rank of Lord Commander, like the only Lord Commander that actually has like legitimate children,
Yep.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because I think he had those children, like, before he got the rank, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was, like, in terms of, like, Lord Commanders or just Kingsguard in general.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, folks,
The Oath of the Kingsguard is very similar to the Night's Watch, where you swear off your land and titles, which is why Tywin found it as a slight to him when Jaime was awarded the position of Kingsguard at such a young age, because Aerys knows that would mean his only heir would be Tyrion, who he hates and who Tywin also theorizes is Aerys' bastard. So, like, there's a whole thing there.
But overall, I think that not only this episode really shines, like, this whole miniseries in general for the first novella is a good adaptation. I think it's best to have showrunners, when it comes to the spin-off shows, to tell the stories of the greater history of Westeros at a more even brisk, you know?
Yeah, and it puts a good bookend, right? Like, it shows the very beginning of Dunk's rough journey, where the entire realm is shitting on him. So at the very end of this season, where, like, you have this even small group of people putting a lot of respect on his name and, like, you know, treating him as an honored friend and comrade.
Yeah.
So I think that's just such a good progression. And I really like the nice little moment at the end where, like, Dunk and Egg are riding off together, and you see Sir Arlen's ghost, you know, riding off in the opposite direction into the sunset. It's kind of signifying, you know, Arlen's time as Dunk's teacher is done, and now it's time for him to pass on those same wisdoms onto the next generation, that is Egg.
Yeah. And I think, at least from my perspective, the greatest teacher Dunk has ever received was basically
hardship.
The people around
him.
Him.
It's hardship, survival, and just the world.
Yeah. Because in one of at least my favorite stories from the novellas is where Dunk and Egg settle a land dispute. That's actually my favorite.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. My favorite one is when they go to Winterfell, and we meet young Nan.
Oh shit, yeah.
We actually meet old Nan when she's, like, young and sexy.
It's like, shit, man.
I was like, oh shit, old Nan I was like, the way they describe old Nan, like, I'm like, oh wait, that's supposed to be old Nan? Oh shit, she's kind of, well, shit.
She was a baddie back in her heyday.
Good for you, old man. Cause like when we meet old Nan in Game of Thrones, she's like, you know, she's like in her like 90s, like, you know,
close to 100.
Nice,
God damn.
Nice, sweet old lady, but like she's, you know, old.
and saying some like crazy shit, but that's normal for old people.
Yep. But yeah, so like I hope that we will get I think this miniseries format for Duncan Egg is perfect. 6 episodes to tell each novella, so we'll probably get like 4 seasons, 1 for each one, which I'm perfectly cool with.
Yeah, I'm content with this novella for like the 6 episode for each novella.
I would like to see an opening sequence though. It does not. They don't have to use the OG, right? But I love the I love the little graphics, like especially because we're gonna explore within this novella parts of Westeros that we rarely got to see on the show. Like, you know, we got to see a little bit of Dorne on OG Game of Thrones, but we'll get to see more of Dorne, you know, hopefully next season. And we'll get to, like, we obviously have spent a ton of time in Winterfell, so we don't, you know, need to know much time about Winterfell.
I don't think they ever, like, show Dorne in the Duncan Egg novellas specifically because it's mostly, like, the tourney.
Yeah.
We go to I think it's a Beesbury holding, and that's in the Crown, and that's in the Westerlands.
That's in the Westerlands, yeah.
For the land dispute, I think that's somewhere in the river.
That was the Riverlands for sure. And
then we have the North, of course, for but for this story, I think it's in between either the Crownlands or the Stormland. Yep.
So, like, I think it would be cool if they showed, like, if like, for an opening sequence, they, like, it just kind of showed the region. Because I think the world of Westeros itself is really cool. And I think, again, another cool thing about this series is going to be able to actually show deeper bits of, like, not only the geography of each of the different regions of, like, the, you know, as Egg said, the 9 kingdoms of Westeros, but, like, also the different cultures, because, you know, Riverlands culture is different from Northman culture, and, you know, Westerland culture, and Stormland culture, you know. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah. But I think, and this is just me speculating why they have the title cards the way that they are, is because Dunk, being a hedge knight, he doesn't have that illustrious of a reputation comparable to that of lords and ladies.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's kind of like the show, kind of the simplicity of his background. I could see that. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up our thoughts. But let us know what you guys thought about this season finale, as well as just the season overall, in the comments down below. Don't forget to do all the usual YouTube things. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, as well as the notification bell so you don't miss any brand new content we have coming from the channel. And if you're on mobile, be sure to hit that hype button, because it really does help us out to spread our video all throughout the algorithm. So, you know, if you could do that, that would be really appreciated. But yeah. We will also be back in a couple weeks actually to do a full podcast episode on A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So if you want to hear us really yap about it in full detail, come back in a couple weeks and we'll actually be bringing our friend Brian in to hear what he thought about these wonderful misadventures.
It'll actually be this coming Saturday, so it won't be, it's technically more like a week or so, or about a week. Oh yeah,
it would be. Yeah, it would be about a week or so. It would be about a week or so. You're right. My bad. Yeah. Yeah, we are doing Duncan Egg next. Yep.
Which spoilers for the next episode of the pod. But hey, join us then. We'll catch you then.
Yep. Until then, we'll see you later. Peace.